The dim glow of a nightlight bathed the small bedroom in a soft, flickering warmth. Stuffed animals lined the shelves, and glow-in-the-dark stars clung to the ceiling, their faint shimmer offering little comfort. 7-year-old Alex lay beneath a thick quilt, their small frame curled tightly, fingers clutching the edges like a lifeline. It had started a week ago, just a feeling at first. That strange sensation of being watched, a crawling unease that sent shivers down Alex's spine. The kind of feeling that made you hold your breath under covers, too afraid to move, too afraid to look. Then, one night, they saw it. At the foot of the bed, standing in the darkness, was a figure. Tall, motionless, completely black, darker than the shadows surrounding it. It had no features, just a void where a face should have been. It didn't move, didn't breathe. It just watched. Alex's tiny chest rose and fell rapidly. Maybe it was just a trick of the eyes, a pile of clothes taking shape in the dark. They squeezed their eyes shut. It's not real. It's not real. When they finally worked up the courage to peek again, it was still there. Every night it returned, always standing in the same spot, always watching. At first, Alex tried to ignore it. If they hid under the blankets, maybe it would go away. But then, the strange things started happening. The air in the room felt different, colder. Not the kind of cold from an open window, but a deep, unnatural chill that settled into Alex's bones. Their dreams became darker, filled with whispers and shadows that slithered along the edges of their mind. Sometimes those whispers didn't stop when Alex woke up. Then came the worst night of all. Alex had had enough. Lying there, heart pounding, they stare at the unmoving figure at the foot of the bed. It had been over a week. The fear was unbearable. This time, they were going to do something. Slowly trembling, Alex reached out toward the bedside lamp. Every inch closer felt like a battle against something unseen, something that didn't want him to move. Their fingers finally brushed the switch. Click. The room flooded with light. The figure was gone. Alex gasped, scanning every corner. Nothing. Just their room. Just the furniture. Just the familiar walls. Had it all been a nightmare? Heart still hammering, Alex hesitated, then reached out and touched the foot of the bed where the shadow had stood. Nothing. No sign of anything ever being there. Relief washed over them. Maybe it really had just been their imagination after all. But when morning came, Alex noticed something. Dark, smudged handprints stained the wall near the foot of the bed. Too high for a child to reach, too large for their own hands. And worst of all, they hadn't been there the night before. Alex's breath hitched. The air felt colder again. Maybe the Shadow Man hadn't left. Maybe he was just waiting. The past was supposed to stay in the past. That was what Alex had told themselves when they left home for college, moving into a small but comfortable apartment just outside campus. New city, new people, new life. But the Shadow Man never truly left. It started subtly. At first, it was just a lingering feeling, a shiver down the spine, a cold prickle at the back of the neck. Alex brushed it off as stress, exhaustion from late-night study sessions, and too much caffeine. But then they started seeing him again. Not directly. Never like before. Now the Shadow Man lurked in the edges of reflections, a fleeting shape in a mirror, a dark silhouette in a window. Sometimes, Alex would catch a glimpse of a tall figure standing behind them in a storefront's glass. But when they turn around, nothing. The real horror began when he started getting closer. It happened in the dead of night. Alex lay frozen, staring at the ceiling, unable to move, unable to scream. Their chest felt crushed under an invisible weight, breath shallow and rapid. They knew what was happening, sleep paralysis. Then they saw him, standing in the corner of the room, just beyond the shadows, watching, silent. But this time, something was different. The figure wasn't just a black void anymore. Two red eyes, burning, soulless, stared back at Alex from the darkness. Alex tried to move to break free, but their body refused to obey. The only thing they could do was watch as the Shadow Man took a step forward. Then another. A rasping breath filled the room, a whisper just on the edge of hearing, like wind through dead leaves. "You can't run." And just as suddenly as it started, it was over. Alex gasped, sitting up, heart hammering. The room was empty. The red eyes were gone, but the feeling remained. He was still there, watching, waiting. Alex wasn't the kind of person to believe in ghosts. Not really. Not until now. Desperation led them to an investigator, a woman in her late 50s, with years of experience in the paranormal. Her voice was calm, but her eyes held the weight of someone who had seen things. She entered the apartment with careful steps, her gaze scanning the space. The moment she stepped into Alex's bedroom, however, she froze. The color drained from her face. Her breathing grew shallow. Then she turned to Alex and shook her head. "I can't help you." Alex's stomach twisted. "What do you mean?" The woman hesitated, eyes darting to the darkened corner of the room. She saw something, felt something. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. "This isn't just a spirit. It's something ancient, something malevolent." She took a step back. "And it's attached to you." Alex's blood ran cold. "Then how do I get rid of it?" The woman looked at them for a long moment before answering. "I don't think you can." And with that, she left. Alex was alone again. And in the mirror across the room, the Shadow Man was still watching. The flickering candlelight cast long, wavering shadows against the walls of Alex's small apartment. Books lay scattered across the table, ancient tomes, weathered pages filled with cryptic symbols and whispered warnings. A deep unease sat heavy in the air. Alex had spent weeks searching for answers, consulting occult experts and digging through old folklore. The truth was worse than they had imagined. The Shadow Man was not a ghost. It was something older, something that fed on fear, drawing strength from the very act of being seen. The more Alex acknowledged it, the stronger it became. And now, after all these years, it was powerful enough to manifest fully. There was only one option left, a ritual. A desperate, dangerous attempt to sever the connection before it was too late. Tonight it ended. Or so Alex hoped. The room was silent, save for the rhythmic murmuring of the incantation. Latin phrases, ones Alex barely understood, fell from their lips in trembling whispers. A circle of salt surrounded them, candles burning at each point. The air grew thick, heavy, like the atmosphere before a violent storm. Then the temperature dropped. A suffocating darkness crept in from the corners of the room, swallowing the candlelight. The flames flickered violently, nearly going out. And then he was there. Not just a shadow this time. He stepped forward from the abyss, his form impossibly tall, the darkness writhing around him like living smoke. His face, or the absence of one, was worse than before. No eyes, no mouth, just an endless hollow void. And then for the first time he spoke. The voice wasn't human. It wasn't even a single voice. It was a chorus of distorted whispers, layered on top of each other, shifting between tones and pitches, echoing in Alex's mind. I have been waiting for this. Alex's breath caught. The salt circle was supposed to keep him out, to protect them, but the shadow man stepped through it effortlessly. You called to me, the voice rumbled. You gave me your fear, and now you are mine. Alex stumbled backward. The air was crushing now, their lungs struggling for breath. The entity moved closer, shadows stretching toward them, twisting and curling like smoke tendrils ready to consume. The ritual, it wasn't working. This thing had never intended to be banished. It had been waiting for this exact moment, waiting for Alex to give in. The darkness swirled around Alex, pressing in from all sides. Their vision blurred, their body trembling under the sheer weight of the entity's presence. It whispered now, the voices slithering into their mind. Surrender. It is easier. No more fear. No more pain. For a fleeting moment, Alex considered it. What if this was inevitable? They had been running for years, fighting a battle against something they never truly understood. Maybe there was no escaping it. Maybe the only way to end this was to let go. But then, a spark of defiance. The entity fed on fear. It thrived on acknowledgement. But what if Alex denied it? A shaky breath. A final decision. Alex shut their eyes. The darkness roared in anger, the air vibrating with rage. The whispers turned to screams, furious and inhuman. The room shook as the shadow man surged forward. But Alex refused to see him, refused to hear him, refused to believe. And then silence. Alex's eyes snapped open. The room was still. The candles had gone out, leaving only the faint glow of the moonlight. The shadow man was gone, or at least it seemed that way. Alex sat there, heart pounding in the deafening quiet. Had they won? Had they truly severed the connection? Then, a whisper, so faint it could have been the wind. I will always be watching. Alex turned slowly toward the mirror, and there, just for a second, two red eyes stared back.